So good afternoon, everyone. Great to be with you all. Thanks for being here for our Goleta Regional Action Plan meeting, where we discuss the impacts of homelessness related to the city of Goleta. I'm Landon Rank, he, him. I'm the Associate Director with SB Act. I'm joined by city staff, including Chuck Flax, if you want to introduce yourself, Chuck.
Hi, everybody. For those who don't know me, I'm Chuck Flax. I'm the city's homeless services coordinator.
Thanks, Chuck. We also have Paul Medell from the city, as well as Deputy Connor Warden, who has taken over from Deputy Roush, and then our homeless outreach providers. So we're going to go ahead and start with just a couple general announcements, and then we will get to our presenters today, and then we'll open it up for community concerns. So just to begin, just a reminder, we have these kind of community-focused meetings on the fourth Monday of every month at noon. So our next meeting will be on Earth Day, April 22nd at noon. So we hope you can join us then. I know some of you were able to join us earlier this month. We had our South County Collaborative open meeting on Zoom. For those who weren't able to join us, we encourage you to check out the recording from that meeting. You can view it here at the link, sbact.org/AOH, or at the QR code. But also, we just want to invite you to check it out and learn a little bit about what we're doing on a South County-wide level. The city of Goleta has been really involved in working on this alongside the cities of Santa Barbara and Carpinteria and the county of Santa Barbara. And we are currently focused on 3 different one-year goals as a South County group. So we're trying to address behavioral health, especially for our top 15 individuals that we've identified throughout South County. We're trying to increase safe parking sites for people who are living in RVs specifically. And then we're also just trying to address public narratives around homelessness, to address some misconceptions and myths, and also just to help individuals understand better how to respond to homelessness. So if you check out that meeting recording, you'll learn a little bit more. And there's definitely lots of ways for community members to get involved with each of these efforts. So we encourage you to check that out. So we have a few things to share broadly today, starting with a presentation from Chuck Flax from last week's or 2 weeks ago, the City of Goleta's Homeless Issues Standing Committee. So I'm going to pull up the presentation, and then you can take it from there, Chuck.
That's great. Thank you, Linda. So when I first got hired, my goal was to present on a regular basis my activities, and the calendar just keeps getting away from me. The last time I did this kind of a presentation was almost a year ago. So I apologize to those of you who are watching me closely. I'm trying to be as accountable as possible to everybody. So next slide. So this is a brief report on the state of homelessness services in the city of Goleta. I'm going to dovetail a little bit with the county's action plan update, which they deliver at most of their meetings. So many of you may be familiar with what I'm going to share there. I'm going to talk about some of the, or all of the Goleta programs that we're currently doing and our outcomes, and then some possible ideas for next fiscal year starting in July. And before you move on, Lennon, I just want to point out the picture there is the Buena Tierra tour that we did with Marcia Fudge, who is the former HUD director under Biden. She came and saw the project Buena Tierra, the permanent supportive housing project being built by the county housing authority. And that's our mayor on the far right, and our city manager, and our neighborhood services director, and city council members. So it was it was a great event. Next slide. So these are the county figures. The county has a really strong community action plan for the whole county, the whole region. And what I really appreciate about it is how transparent they are about their goals and where there are gaps. And so the plan calls for 442 units of permanent housing, 500, or actually total need is 1,366 units of permanent housing. 563 beds of interim housing, and to try to get these two lines to merge. The blue line are people who are exiting homelessness into permanent housing. The orange line are people who have entered homelessness for the first time. And each of these numbers is a quarterly number. So there's a lot going on this slide. You can see that we have, of the 1,366 permanent housing units, we have secured 442. Well, actually, the next slide does a better job of this. But before you move on, I just want to the graph here with the two lines, I think, is important to notice. This is what makes our job as people working in homelessness very difficult. As you can see, on a quarterly basis, we've been housing hundreds of people. So, a year is 4 quarters. That the average here is over 1,000 people every four quarters or every year. The problem is that the numbers of people entering homelessness is about 2 people for every 1 person we get housed. And so it's frustrating. I mean, we've seen a decline in the last quarter, but in general, there's a big separation between these 2 numbers. And it's something that is happening countywide. Go ahead, Linda. So the solution to homelessness is housing. And here are the 3 ways that the county and us and everybody who's working on the issue are trying to address the housing shortage, the housing problem. So the gap that was estimated, the gap is across the top line. 1,366 units of permanent housing were needed, 563 units of shelter, and 1,053 rapid rehousing kind of vouchers to help people get quickly into housing. The progress we've made is 439 units were secured for permanent housing. 140 units have already been created of interim housing above what we already have. And 436 rapid response vouchers were given out. This is over the last couple of years. Unfortunately, the remaining need is still pretty high. We have 927 units of permanent housing still needed, 423 units of interim housing, and 617 kind of certificates of rapid rehousing. What's currently in development is encouraging. There are 234 units of development of permanent housing, 60 of which are here in Goleta. That's the project that's currently under development and we're actually putting people into. That's the Buena Tierra project. The shelter gap is going to be closed by the time the county is done with their current efforts. There are 423 shelter units in progress, or interim housing units. And as you can see from the pictures, the far right picture up above is an example of the Dignity Moves project that we're doing currently. We, all of us, the county is doing, across the county. They just opened a project that looks like this in Santa Maria, which is, I believe, 90 units, might be more. And then there's an 80-unit project called La Posada, which is going to be opening up on Hollister. And then in terms of rapid rehousing, 30 are in progress. There's more to come on that because there's a new grant coming out in a matter of, it's going to be for the next fiscal year that's going to be funding significantly rapid rehousing. So, there's a lot of activity, a lot of money on the table, and a lot of things in progress. So I think generally this is really good news. Next slide. As for the city of Goleta, when I came on board, we were primarily doing an outreach program with CityNet. That was the Goleta outreach that you see up on top. We've since expanded our efforts in collaboration and really developed a broad array of programs and services specifically tied to the homelessness issue. Some of them were in existence already, but what I'm doing is coordinating all of this and bringing it all together. So what you see here, and we have representatives from many of these projects here, you see under the term outreach, we have the direct funded program with CityNet, but then the county is paying for SURF One, which is it's the California Encampment Relief Fund, ARPA, which is the federal emergency funding that came down under COVID, being operated by Good Samaritan. New Beginnings is operating safe parking outreach that's largely being funded by other sources than the city of Goleta, although we just started a contract with them. We're in the process of starting a contract with them that will beef up their efforts here. And then there are quite a few other people doing outreach. The Department of Behavioral Wellness, the Officer Warden and others are, from the sheriff's department are doing outreach. We have a lot of different outreach things going on constantly in Goleta. And then if you look at my numbers served, this is based on the tracking that I'm doing on a regular basis of actual people who are being served by these different programs. In terms of shelter or interim housing, we have 2 units at Path, and then we recently started a contract with Good Samaritan for Hedges House of Hope in Isla Vista, where we have four beds dedicated to the city of Goleta. In terms of safe parking, we've had a long-standing relationship with Safe Parking where we actually haven't given them all that much direct funding, but they've been committed to Goleta. They have, I believe, 35 spaces that are dedicated to the city of Goleta. Currently, 28 people are in those spaces. And if there are questions about that, Cora is on our call. She can answer those more about that program. The RHMP is the Rental Housing Mediation Program. And that's a program that helps keep people in their housing. So if someone is having some trouble with their landlord, or if a landlord's having trouble with a tenant, one place they can go for help is this program that's operated by the city of Santa Barbara. And they serve about, this number is not actually accurate. No, I guess it is. They serve about 150 people annually, but I think this year we're in line to see more folks being served because of increases in rent and fear of eviction by a lot of folks. So they've been a great partner to the city, and we're in the process of expanding their contract. And then finally, as you know, with SB Act providing a tremendous amount of coordination and support to the city on an ongoing basis. In addition, they have a neighborhood navigation center that Landon may talk about a little bit later in the meeting that the city of Goleta supports. So our total budget that has been allocated for us is actually $730,000, of which we've currently only spent $543,600. So what that tells me is that there's room within our budget to do some programmatic expansion. So that leads me to the next slide. Oh, I'm sorry. First, let's talk about results. So currently in Goleta, based on our outreach efforts and our direct work, we have 79 people in encampments, 26 who are in shelter that are connected to the city of Goleta, and 23 in vehicles. Now, you see the numbers don't entirely match up because many of the people that are in vehicles are actually not in our HMIS system. So this number is probably larger. We just don't have a way of exactly counting it. And this is the percentage breakdown. Next slide. This is my favorite slide. Before 2021, we didn't really know the extent of the problem. So there are 9 people that were enrolled in the HMIS system and 6 people housed. Since then, we've been doing a significant amount of outreach and tracking of people in Goleta specifically. So the numbers started to go up. That's why we're seeing these numbers go up. That's the blue numbers are new enrollments in HMIS. What's exciting for Goleta is, I don't know if you remember the picture I showed with the county lines where they were never meeting. In this case, we are meeting the demand. We have been housing people at approximately the rate at which people are becoming homeless. This is really important. This is something I'm extremely proud of, and we're going to see this continue because of the large number of permanent supportive housing that's being built, the interim housing that's getting established. It's actually a really good trend for Goleta, even though unfortunately we're still seeing an increase in homeless people. And this question about approaching functional zero. So functional zero means that homelessness would be a one-time experience for people. It would be rare, and it would be short. And that's I'm moving towards a way of tracking this kind of technical term, functional zero, so that I can demonstrate that to the city council and to the public as we move forward. Next slide. So the priorities for the rest of the fiscal year are that we're going to complete the Buena Tierra move-ins. That'll be 60 people. We're going to oversee movement of people from the encampments in La Posada interim housing. We're going to continue resolving encampments, particularly in the Project Connect corridors. Project Connect is a large infrastructure project the city of Goleta is in the process of building. We are unfortunately having to move people out of encampments, more rapidly than maybe they're ready to go. So it's been difficult, but people have been generally really cooperative. I really am very thankful for that. I'm in the process of putting in a request for proposals out for landlord outreach services, and I'll explain that with the next slide. We've signed the contracts, or we're close to signing the contracts to expand safe parking outreach in the city of Goleta. And I hope to see more enrollments and maybe more lots in the city of Goleta coming up. And that was what Landon was getting to with their activities. And then finally, the Neighborhood Navigation Center, we're thrilled to have it. Unfortunately, it hasn't been as well utilized as we would like. So I'm hoping to find a new site for the Neighborhood Navigation Center in the next few months. Next slide. This is my last slide. These are the new program ideas I have for the next fiscal year. So the first is a major safe parking expansion. The county has applied for an $8 million grant from the state of California. I'm hoping to dedicate at least $360,000 towards the city of Goleta to have more dedicated outreach, more spaces in Goleta, more Goleta-based case management, and housing navigation and placement for people living in vehicles in Goleta. And Cora is the face of that effort. Thank you, Cora, for all the work you do. And then the next thing I want to get into is it's a program that already exists in certain parts of the county. It's the group that's doing it most actively is Partners in Housing Solutions. But I know that other organizations like New Beginnings, like CityNet, like Good Samaritan are interested in this approach of directly recruiting landlords to help people get placed quickly. And these are people that don't necessarily need a lot of extra support and social services, but just maybe need some funding, first and last month's rent, maybe some furniture and other kinds of support to get into an apartment. And sometimes it's hard for landlords to accept that someone who's been living in their car or living on the streets is a good tenant. So what this program does is it goes in between the landlord and the tenant and helps to facilitate the transition. They do it through incentives. They do it through kind of, going out and reaching out to landlords and talking about the program. They provide a pool of insurance for repairs or maintenance of the apartment. And they continue to provide rental assistance if there's a shortfall. So it's kind of an insurance policy for landlords, and it also recruits landlords to participate in housing formerly homeless people. It's worked very well in a lot of places around the country. It's worked very well in Santa Barbara. I believe they've housed well over 400 people over the last couple of years. So we're excited about partnering with whoever is interested in doing this. And I'm going to be putting out that request for proposals shortly. So keep your eyes open for that and tell your friends about this opportunity. I have not necessarily secured the funding for this project. So it's something that I'm going to be working on as well and to get it funded and supported. But it's something that I think really rounds out the array of services that Goleta needs.
Yep. See you tomorrow. You too.
Okay, next slide. I think that's it. Are there any questions for me? And Linda, do we have time for me to take some questions if people have them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. No questions. Good. Let's keep going.
I have a question.
All right.
Judy might have a question. Go ahead, Judy.
Yeah. You said that 55, I didn't understand your favorite slide. You said 55 out of 57 people were housed that needed it in Goleta.
It's the other way around, actually. It's the other way around. So, yeah, so this is not the total number of people who are homeless. This is a comparison of what we would call the flow of homeless people into and out of the system. So the blue bars represent the flow. These are people coming into the system for the first time. The orange bars represent people getting housed. in order to reach functional zero, in order to really end homelessness, we need to accommodate all the people who are becoming homeless. And what we're showing is that as of right now, people who want housing, who we've been able to really support for housing, we've been able to get them into housing. The hard part, as you, Judy, know, and as many people know, is that there are quite a few people who don't trust the system, who are struggling with a variety of issues that make it difficult for them to complete things like getting all their paperwork or, meeting with landlords, making all their appointments. So that's where we have to continue our work with all the outreach teams and the interim housing programs to help those people who aren't able to get immediately into housing move down the line towards that process.
So you're trying to get more of that kind of help, or that help is available?
So a lot of it is available. I mean, I think where we are now is, I think the hardest struggle we have, and the outreach folks can confirm this for me, is that it's difficult sometimes to get people to trust the homeless serving system.
Yeah.
And we it's, you can't blame people. They've been let down in some cases for years and years and years, or they've tried to get help for various problems that they have, and it hasn't been successful. So
They give up.
Yeah. So the hard part of our work is to help them see that in fact we can help them.
Thank you.
Okay, the question I have is, you mentioned La Posada on Hollister. Could you say something about that?
Toast that.
La Posada.
Oh, I thought you didn't.
Judy, can you maybe Landon, you can mute her. There you go. Pete, was your question about La Posada?
Yes, please.
So La Posada is a project by Santa Barbara County. The Santa Barbara County received funding from the federal government and from the state to do an expansion of interim housing or shelter. The La Posada project is going to be 80 units of tiny homes that are built by a program called Dignity Moves. And these are small homes that create privacy, that give people a safe place to live. And the goal is they're building it right next to a major encampment, maybe the largest encampment in the South County, that to house those people first. But I anticipate that that there will be opportunities for people in Goleta who are in encampments to also be able to move into those tiny homes. And Good Samaritan, the homeless service provider, is going to be providing the ongoing services and security and support for those residents. Does that answer your question?
Well, kind of. Just a little bit curious that, well, Goleta is a tiny city in the county. So all this is being done. Goleta is leading this on behalf of the county. Is that right, or what?
This is not in the city of Goleta. This is it's near San Marcos High School. So it's on Hollister Pass Turnpike.
I see. So it doesn't involve the one on that was advertised some years ago on that used to be Super 8 Motel on Fairview and Hollister?
That's not a shelter. That's an apartment project. So that's going to house 60 people. That's being managed and built by the Santa Barbara Housing Authority, the county housing authority, and that's going to immediately end homelessness for 60 people. That's at Hollister. I mean, Hollister and Fairview.
Okay, so that's not part of your report.
It's not something that the city of Goleta directly built. It's a project that the county housing authority built. The city of Goleta contributed to it. The city put about $500,000 of federal funds into that project, but it's the ongoing project itself is the county housing authority and Good Samaritan. So yes, we're part of it.
Okay, then this safe parking thing, there are avenues on social media that tell people who are itinerant from somewhere in the US to other places where to go and park. And they have targeted the place on Phelps, which is really not, it's a no place. There are no facilities there whatsoever. And I'm wondering if you are aware of this.
I'm not sure I understand the question.
He's asking about Phelps Road and
Ah.
the number of RVs that are there and individuals and cars.
Is that what you're asking about, Pete?
Yes, because on social media, people who are traveling they don't even live in this area at all. But I think they check and somebody puts out information there that you can go here and there, and it's kind of like rousing the community here. You know, Mike, I just wanted to bring that to your attention, if that maybe you're already aware of that, and is there any misinformation going on, or is that something you want to include in your outreach?
So the answer is yes to all your questions. So the Phelps and Pacific Oaks corridor has been a place where a lot of people park. And what we've seen in the last couple years, has been a growth of people parking their RVs there. Also commercial vehicles like large trucks have been parking there, like, you know, big semi trucks. And so what we did is the city responded in a couple of ways. First of all, we've expanded the outreach with safe parking. So Cora and her team have put, you know, lots of information to those folks, talked to all those people. Many people who live in RVs aren't necessarily homeless, or they're not necessarily interested in participating in homeless programs. So the residents were very concerned about the number of RVs parking in that area. And that's what you're talking about with posting on social media and things like that. So the city actually passed a resolution, and the city's outlawed large vehicle parking at all times on both sides of Pacific Oaks and on both sides of Phelps, you know, in that area. So we're in the process of getting signs and putting up the signs, and then we will increase enforcement. So it's really just a matter of, you know, maybe a few weeks, a month or two, before the signs are up, and then people won't be allowed to park there. What does that mean? People are likely to move their RVs to other places. So the question is, what do we do about the growing number of people living in vehicles? And that's why I want to expand the relationship with the New Beginning Safe Parking program. Is we need to learn the whole range of needs that people have who live in their vehicles and try to figure out ways to accommodate them. Because when RVs park on city streets, it's a traffic issue. It can be a public health issue. And so we want to make sure that we as a city are responding appropriately. And different cities around the country are looking at this. It's because of how rents have been escalating over the years and going up. It's really, you know, many people are making the choice to move into vehicles. And so I think, you know, it's becoming a problem across the country that we're all going to be paying attention to.
Well, thank you for your response to that. You know, just so people have drawn, I mean, it's evident that the state of the road, of Phelps Road, you know, it's really such, and most of those roads, many roads in our city, also in the country, were not built to handle really heavy load on a daily basis, and the roads fall apart. So wherever you are considering the safe parking, I hope that gets into consideration, that there's an engineering factor between the way the surface is constructed, and the admission of heavy utility vehicle or heavy, I mean, those RVs are heavy, you know, and on a daily permanent basis damage the roads. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And we'll discuss more a little bit when we get to the updates from the service providers as well.
Another question, are all the housing in the Super 8 and the tiny homes project, are they all spoken for already, or are there more openings, vacancies if the person shows the need?
That's a great question. So the way these projects work is through the coordinated entry system. So this is why it's really important for people who are homeless to register with that system, because that's how we allocate housing units to people. And so in the case of Buena Tierra, they are in the process of getting applications from people, and people have been selected to put in applications, but they know that not everybody who applies is going to move in or going to work out. So for the remaining, I think it's 50 units or so, they're probably going to have at least 100 people applying. So they're still accepting applications for Buena Tierra for permanent housing. For the La Posada project, they haven't even begun officially placing people yet. And so that's something that, again, it's done through coordinated entry. So if you have any connections with homeless people at all, really encourage them to get into the system, and they can talk to many of the people on this call are working directly with homeless people and can help people sign up for these services.
Thank you.
Any other? Oh, go ahead, Randy.
Hi, Chuck. I went to the meeting with the Board of Supervisors, at the Planning Commission chambers on Tuesday, where they discussed the the plan for 6,000 more units, basically around here in Goleta. And I was just wondering if there's been any dialogue or discussion with them. It's not that I expect affordable housing units to be fulfilled. I think each development is required to have 20%, but I'm just curious if they just had any way of factoring in the needs for the homeless in the future. And I mean, with 6,000 people already, that seems overwhelming to me. It's going to definitely be like LA or Orange County quickly. But anyway, I was wondering if there's been any discussion with the planners for the future housing.
So it's not, that question is not easily answered, because the short answer to your question is there's not a lot of detailed conversation between developers in general and the planning process in a detailed way. Projects aren't laid out at this stage when they're getting their housing element approved. They don't actually have specific projects in mind.
But from the private sector, I just wondering.
Yeah. Well,
what was
and like the housing authority. The housing authority operates like a regular developer, a private developer, and so each project is negotiated. Each deal is made separately. What you're referring to, the process you're referring to, is creating zoning that would allow for more dense development. And so the short answer to your question from a homelessness service perspective is anything that creates more density has the potential for lowering rents. It doesn't necessarily mean rents will be lowered. Santa Barbara is an extremely desirable place. We've never seen a project really impact the housing market so much. But the theory behind this is if you have more density, you could have more lower rents. Lower rents means you could have fewer homeless people. In terms of public housing, in terms of housing that's subsidized specifically for very low income people and homeless people, this process really has nothing to do with that. So when it comes time to build properties, there's always public pressure and support to try to get more affordable units put in. And that's where the housing authority plays an important role. It's where other, people self-help housing. There are a variety of developers who partner with the private developers to create more affordable housing. And so the hope is that, as these new projects come online in the future, we'll see more affordability. A good example is the Heritage Ridge project that's going forward. It's been approved. It hasn't broken ground yet, but that's, I believe, a 400 unit project, 100 units are going to be dedicated to very low income people, many of whom could be homeless. So that's a significant improvement in the number of units for the city of Goleta. So I'm not sure I'm answering your question, but it's a complicated multi-stage process from planning to development. And yes, the city of Goleta is in constant communication with the county. We all share a lot of information on an ongoing basis. There's actually a quarterly group on affordable housing development. It's the affordable housing task force, I believe it's called. I can, if you're curious about it, I can let you know when it happens. It is open to the public. People can attend. And it's when all the jurisdictions in the county report out how they're building affordable housing. So, and that happens every quarter.
I guess I just have such a primitive understanding about the process that I wasn't clear to me whether or not this is going to create more pressure and less housing for homeless and actually create more homeless because available space is going to be absorbed by 6,000 people. It's a big number. Or is this something that looks like there's positive potential? I guess if there's good communication and where that communication needs.
I mean, if you're an optimist, it's positive potential. If you're a pessimist, you could say that this will all be auctioned off to the highest bidder and only rich people will be able to afford the units. But I hope that's not true. I actually think the planning process in this region is so democratic. There's so many different stakeholders who participate that it does seem to be that we generate a fair amount of affordability while we're putting up these new projects. So I'm hopeful.
Good. All right. Thanks, Chuck.
Any other questions for Chuck? All right, thanks, Chuck. We'll be discussing all of this continuously as we go. Chuck touched on the Buena Tierra and La Posada separately, but just a note about timelines for both of those. I think you may have even mentioned this too, but Buena Tierra, the permanent housing that took over where Super 8 Motel is, currently has 20 out of the 60 units filled. And the county housing authority is anticipating the other 40 being filled either this month or in the very near future. There's some construction on site. So that'll be another 40 individuals moving into permanent housing. And then La Posada, which is the transitional, so not permanent housing, but it's the transitional cabins in the unincorporated area near San Marcos High School, is set to open sometime in April. That's the current projection. So we have a lot of opportunities for people to begin moving either directly off the streets or from the shelters into housing, which opens up beds in the shelters just in the next 2 months. So there's a lot to be excited about in this spring season.
Do you mean 20 people are actually in housing there at Buena Tierra right now?
Yeah, they did phased move-ins, so the first phase is already moved in.
That's great.
Yeah. Apparently they're dealing with some loud jackhammer sounds right now, but I think it'll be done soon.
That's fabulous.
Just one quick comment is we use the term affordable housing a lot. You hear it everywhere, but it's a very ambiguous term. What is affordable? And I'm hoping that people can, many of the projects here over the years have been built where those affordable units will be set aside, but which in reality they're nowhere really affordable, and you still end up with people being homeless. So I do hope there can be a closure, something more definitive, either in percentage or that's based on numbers, so people don't get fooled. Well, we have this affordable set of units, but they're not affordable, really.
I need to pull up the actual numbers, but it's based on the area median income. And so there are different levels of affordable housing. Some affordable housing, like as Chuck mentioned at the Heritage Ridge, that will be for the very low income, which is the very lowest level of the area median income. And there is a specific percentage associated with that. Versus there could be some affordable housing that's called like workforce housing, and that's for people who are in the moderate income level. So they have specific numbers associated with each level there. I just don't have those right in front of me. So let me see if I can find those.
Thank you.
And then I was hoping today we would also have a presentation from UCSB about their affordable housing crisis, but we're going to kick that to next month. It was going to be a student presenter, and they're on spring break. So we'll see them hopefully in April. So
And
with that,
Landon, when you talk to them, if they can also report out on the recent lawsuit that was settled,
Yeah.
it's all very relevant to them, and they do a really good job. I've seen their presentation.
Great. So I think with that, we'll go to hear from our homelessness outreach providers. We'll start with our team from the Safe Parking Program. Sorry to put you on the spot there, Cora.
That's all right. Hi, everybody. So yeah, we're just continuing to do outreach, the regular outreach that we do, which Pacific Oaks is part of that. And then we've also gotten some requests, so we're also hitting those. We did have one request for Lexington, and that person at this time, we're not actually able to enroll them in safe parking because they're in a trailer, but we are actively working with them, doing light touch case management, and we're getting them enrolled in SenCal and also EBT. And then I also did get the email this morning about the Union Pacific Railroad, so we'll be hitting that today as well. And we also touched the Glen Annie person and with no success in reaching anybody, but we continue to do outreach. And as I mentioned, our team has grown, so we are doing a lot more out in Goleta. And that's all I've got for now.
Thank you, Cora. And then can we hear from the Good Samaritan team? I see Fernando and Tim.
Hi, this is Tim Garcia from ARPA Outreach Good Samaritan. We were able to engage a couple of clients in Isla Vista. We were able to hand out food and water, and we were able to get a couple of individuals into the sobering center. One of those clients we were able to transport to a recovery program in Santa Maria on Friday, so that was a good outcome. And we weren't able to get to the navigation points that are in Goleta last week, but hopefully we can get there this week. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Let's go to, oh,
Landon?
go ahead, Fernando. Yeah.
Hi, we have an update for Serve 2 also. So last week we were able to get one individual permanently housed here in Goleta. 2 clients in Goleta are in the process of finishing their BT applications, and they're already set to move in, so we're just waiting in on a move-in date. We also supported Officer Gaston and Isla Vista Police Department on an emergency in an encampment in Isla Vista. We also checked out Fairview near the airport just to make sure that there wasn't any new encampments. And so we didn't see anything new there. We responded to community concerns regarding an encampment near More Mesa, near San Marcos, and updated Fulcrum. It seemed like it used to be active, but the people that were staying there have just left, but there's a lot of trash. So Fulcrum was updated with a whole bunch of pictures, and there's a lot of trash. So I think quick response should go out there and clean that area up. We also checked on one of the clients on Maria Ignacio Creek. And we did do a follow-up with that on an email thread. And then we have one individual who also has permanent housing now, who was staying in Hedges and is now living in Ventura. Those are the updates.
Thanks, Fernando.
Fernando, you mentioned a request for a quick response and it came a cleanup. Have you is this in the surf area?
Yeah, it was near the More Mesa area by
More
San
Mesa.
Marcos.
Okay.
Yeah.
So outside the city of Goleta. Okay.
Yeah, so Fulcrum was updated and we did put those notes in.
Great.
And let's go to our CityNet team. I see Ellen on the call.
Hi, for those that don't know me, my name is Ellen Antignoli. I work with CityNet for City of Goleta Outreach Case Management. I was out for about a week and a half with illness, so not a super robust update this week. We have been putting a lot of focus on Buena Tierra. We have about 3 people right now that are kind of in that interim phase, just waiting for construction to be done so they can move in, but that's really exciting. I've been getting a lot of calls from folks who know that the move-ins have started and are interested in the process and kind of explaining to them how that works, and that unfortunately there's no just direct application. We've been doing a lot of CES entries, meeting a lot of new people that have been experiencing homelessness for a long time but haven't really engaged until now because they're aware of Buena Tierra. There's also been a lot of outreach focused on the Project Connect areas. I believe the CERF team went out on Friday to one of those areas just to check in and didn't encounter anyone. Trying to think, I don't think there's anything else right now major, just a lot of focus on finding the individuals that were cleared from the track. So just relocating clients and finding out where they've gone to reconnect with them. But that's all for me today.
Thank you, Ellen. And then Shannon from YMCA Youth and Family Services.
I
Or
can give a big
Brittany.
update for us.
Great.
Hi, guys. So we did focus our outreach in Ivy. We didn't move much farther from Ivy, but we were able to successfully engage 2 individuals. So we will be connecting with them later on this afternoon.
And we should note that Brittany's team with YMCA is focused on youth and young adults ages 18 to 24.
I just wanted to add too that we currently have 14 Buena Tierra applications in process.
Fantastic.
Very exciting. And then Deputy Warden, do you have any updates you wanted to share?
Nope, nothing from me.
Okay. So let's open it up for other community questions or concerns. Anyone in the community have anything? We've had a bit of discussion already, so maybe the main questions got answered. I can share too, Chuck mentioned the Neighborhood Navigation Center. So we've been out at Christ Lutheran Church every Monday. We still are there every Monday for the time being. Church has been really gracious to host us there and be able to provide a meal. We have several faith communities providing food, and some of the service providers have been able to come out as well. But consistently, only between 2 to 4 people show up each week who are experiencing homelessness because we think it's just so far out of the way. We were hopeful that there would be a bus line through MTD that would be opening up, but it doesn't look like it's going to be opening anytime soon to that area. And so, as Chuck mentioned, we're currently identifying a new site that's closer to the bus lines so that people can get to it. And then hopefully we'll be able to bring showers as well. So we'll keep you all posted as to when that happens. But in the meantime, every Monday at 11, we're still out at Christ Lutheran Church for anyone that wants a meal. All right, any other questions or anything else to share from the community? All right. Well, we'll go ahead and end for today. Thank you all for the good discussion, and we'll see you on Earth Day next month.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.